Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Master Duel Sky Striker deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is a really awesome deck to be able to play in Master Duels, but it is very different from the TCG version, with Kangari being at 1 and Engage being at 2 and all sorts of other changes in this deck. It's absolutely crazy powerful. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name stripped from single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Ray. Ray is the entire deck and is super good because she has the ability that you get to quick effect tribute this card to special summon out a Sky Striker Ace monster from your X deck to the extra monster zone. And while this card is in the graveyard, if a face-up Sky Striker Ace link monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon her back to your side of the field, which is a crazy good effect to just be able to constantly have Ray rolling into your other copies of your extra deck monsters. We then play 2 copies of Rose. Rose is here because you need the extra 2 monsters in this build to be able to go into your extra deck monsters. This card is really good as a 2 of in here, and I really have liked playtesting this card at 2. We then play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. This card is here because it can stop your opponent's monster effects during their main phase, which is a really good thing for this deck, to be able to just stop your opponent from going into insane boards. I really like Effect Veiler in 3, and it even comes up to help us go into Access Code Talker with our copies of Celine. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This basically stops your opponent from touching the deck, so this card is a great 3 of in this build, and I really like 3 Ash Blossom. And then we play 3 copies of Max C. Max C is crazy in Master Duel. Like, this card is just so good because basically you just discard this card and it turns your opponent's entire turn off, where they're just going to stop playing for the rest of the turn, which is really good because we can grab all sorts of different cards from the deck off of this card. Even if we just draw 1 card off this card, it's always going to be good. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Rhoda. Rhoda is here because basically you can search your copies of Ray or Rose with this card. So this card is a very good 1 of in here to basically play the 6th copy of your Sky Striker monster. We play a single copy of Pot of Avarice. Pot of Avarice is really good because Kangari is at 1, and we do play these 5 monsters in the deck. You can actually shuffle back your hand traps with this. You can shuffle back your copies of your extra Rays that you don't want in the graveyard. You can even shuffle back your copies of Kangari into the extra deck to be able to give you multiple copies of Kangari. So this card is a great 1 of in here to be able to give you a draw 2 and get your cards back into the deck. We then play a single copy of Monster Reborn. I use this to help me link climb, and if I don't have a copy of Ray or Rose on my side of the field, I can then bring them back to my side of the field with a copy of Monster Reborn. So this card is very good as a 1 of in here. We then play a single copy of Terraforming to get to our field spell, which is very good in this deck. A single copy of Feather Duster. I can't tell you how many times I've used this card in Master Duel against Eldritch, because basically you just activate the copy of Feather Duster and it destroys all of their back row when we go second with this deck. So this card is a very good 1 of in here to be able to just get rid of all the back row that your opponent's playing. We then play 3 copies of Upstart Goblin. This is absolutely nuts that this card is at 3 in Master Duel. It basically makes it so we're playing a 37 card deck, and it helps us get spells into the graveyard so then we can activate the full potential of our Sky Striker cards. So this card is a great 3 of in this build. I really like the copies of Upstart Goblin at 3. We then play a single copy of Hornet Drones. Hornet Drones give us a token on our side of the field, because if you control no monster in your main monster zone, you can special summon a Sky Striker Ace token that's a Warrior Dark level 1 0 attack 0 defense in defense position, which it can't be tributed. And then all of your Sky Striker cards that are normal spells and quick play spells share the ability that if there's 3 or more spells in the graveyard, they get a bonus effect. This card's bonus effect is the attack and defense of the token becomes 1500, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Sky Striker Mecha Eagle Booster. Eagle Booster is a good 1 of in here as well, because Eagle Booster basically makes your monsters protected by card effects, because it has the ability, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you target one face and monster on the field, that target is unaffected by other effects this turn. And then if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, it can't be destroyed by battle as well. So this card is a really good card as an answering card to be able to go after your opponent if they're activating something to get rid of one of your copies of your your Sky Striker monsters. We then play a single copy of Jamming Wave. Jamming Wave is basically like an MST, but it has the ability that if you control no monsters, then you can target one set spell or trap on the field and destroy it. And you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you destroy a monster on the field as well. So you can turn into a spell and trap pop of a set card, and then it can also pop a monster as well if you have 3 or more spells. We then play 2 copies of Sky Striker, Mobilize, Engage. This card is nuts in the game, and I love that this card is at 2. It has the ability to search any Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand. And it also has the ability that if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you also get to draw a card. Essentially turning this card into a +1 is just really, really good. And you can use it multiple times with your copies of Multi-Roll. We then play 2 copies of Area 0. I feel like Area 0 at 2 is fine. I have considered cutting it down to 1 in this build and playing a single copy of Chicken Game as well. So that is an option for you guys, because Chicken Game is at 3 in Master Duel, which is just crazy. But this card is really good because it has the ability to target one other card that you control, excavate the top 3 from your deck, and if you do, you get to add 1 excavated Sky Striker card to your hand. Also shuffle the rest back into the deck, and if you excavate a Sky Striker card, send the target to the graveyard, and if this card in the field spell zone is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, then you get to special summon a Sky Striker Ace from the deck, which is really good to be able to just give you an additional monster on your side of the field. We play double Afterburner. Afterburner is insane and one of the best cards in the deck. It lets you pop a monster on the field. If you have 3 more spells in the graveyard, you can also destroy a spell or trap, which is really, really good. We then play 2 copies of Widow Anchor. Widow Anchor is at 2 in the game, but this card is really good, and you got to play 2 copies of Widow Anchor because it's one of the best Sky Striker cards that has the ability that you can target a face-up effect monster on the field and negate that face-up monster's effect until the end of the turn. And if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you can also take control of that monster to help you link climb. We then play 2 copies of Shark Cannon as well. Shark Cannon at 2 is really good. I really like Shark Cannon at 2 in my build because it has the ability that you can target one monster opponent's graveyard and banish that target, which is just insanely good, especially against Eldritch when you're trying to banish the Golden Lord. And it has the ability also that if you have 3 or more spells, you can special summon that monster to your field, but it can't attack, basically giving you an additional monster reborn of an opponent's monster, almost like an Ice Dragon prison effect, basically giving you the ability to link climb. So it's a pretty good 2 of in here. And then we play 2 copies of Multi-Roll. Multi-Roll is at 2 in the game, opposed to being at 1 in the TCG. So this card is really good because it lets you roll your spell cards multiple times with the ability to once per turn target one other card that you control and send that card to the graveyard. And also your opponent cannot activate effects in response to the spell effects of the activations of this turn, basically turning all of your spells into speed spell 4s, which is really insane. And then once per turn during the end phase, you can set Sky Striker spells with different names from the graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spells you activated this turn while this card was face up on the field, but banish them when they leave the field, which is really good because basically you can activate like a Widow Anchor and then set the Widow Anchor back to your side of the field, essentially turning it into a double use, which is really, really good. It essentially turns all of your cards into 2-ofs, which is really good because like you play 2 extras of this and 2 extras of this, making them a 4-of in the deck, which is just really, really good. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps because we actually play a couple of traps in this deck. So for the traps that we're playing in this deck, we're just playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is here because it's like an additional effect veiler. It can stop the opponent from activating monster effects, so it's a really good 3 of in here. I have considered playing copies of Nibiru in here, but for right now, I'm really liking the copies of Infinite Impermanence, and it's just a really, really good card. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're just playing a single copy of Kangari because Kangari is at 1, unfortunately, in Master Duels, and it has the ability, if this card is special summoned, you get to target 1 Sky Striker in the graveyard, 1 Sky Striker spell in the grave, and add it to your hand. It gains 100 attack for each spell in the graveyard, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. It's a really good 1-of in here. I hope that they bring it back to 2 or 3 in Master Duels, but it's a really, really good 1-of in here. We played 3 copies of Shizuku. Shizuku is the card that you're going to be primarily going for after the Kangari, and has the ability that monsters your opponent control lose 100 attack and defense for each spell in the graveyard, and then once per turn during the end phase, if this card was special summoned this turn, then you can add a Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand with a different name from cards in your graveyard, which is really good comboed with Multi-Roll. We then play 3 copies of Hayate. Hayate is a really insane link monster that lets you attack your opponent directly, and after damage calculation, if this card battled, you can send a Sky Striker card from your deck to the graveyard, which is pretty good to help you get the exact ones you want in the graveyard. Play just a single copy of Kaina. I don't go into Kaina all that much, so this card is just a good 1-of in here because basically she has the ability, if this this card is Special Summon. You target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It can attack into the end of your opponent's next turn, which is pretty good, especially if you target like a copy of the Golden Lord that has like 3,500. So this card does come up handy every so often, but it's like the one that I make the least. We then play Double Zeke. I feel like Double Zeke is the way to go with this deck, especially with cards like Shark Cannon, Widow Anchor, and copies like Monster Reborn. This card is really good because it has the ability that if this card is link summoned, then you can target one face-up monster on the field and banish it until the opponent's next end phase. And then once per turn, you can target one other card that you control, and this card gains 1,000 attack. Then send the target card to the graveyard, which combos very well with your field spell. I really like this card. Play a single copy of Access Code Talker because we can make it extremely easily in this deck to help us OTK the opponent, to give us multiple pops on the field, especially with all the different attributes we're playing. Just up here, we're playing everything but light. We then play a single copy of Boral Sword, just in case we want to make Boral Sword to go in for game. One copy of Unicorn, because Unicorn is just absolutely crazy in the deck, because this card basically lets us spin cards, and it's just super, super good. One copy of Selene. Selene is really good in the deck as well, because Selene has the ability that basically you can just, for every spell in the graveyard, you put a counter on her, and then for those counters that you put on the copy of Selene, you can remove 3 of them to special summon a spellcaster and monster from your hand or graveyard and defense position. Do so on this card points to, which is going to be the effect Veiler that you're actually going to summon off this card's effect. We then play a single copy of Needle Fiber, because if you can make Needle Fiber, you can make Selene. If you can make Selene, you can make Access Code. So this card is really good because it can special summon out any one of your hand traps from the deck except for Max C, which basically gives you a copy of Selene, which we're always going to have more than 3 spells in the graveyard for the Selene, and then the Selene will go off, giving you a copy of the effect Veiler that you summon off the copy of the Needle Fiber on your side of the field again, and then you can link climb into the copy of Access Code Talker, ending game by banishing any of these cards to be able to go in for all sorts of damage. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a very interesting deck, and I really like the way that it's changed in Master Duels. I really would like to see more Kangari, but other than that, I feel like it's a really fun deck. I really enjoyed playing this deck, and it's really done well for me in playtesting, and I really hope that you guys give this deck a try. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.